Hey guys, Car197 again. This time with a review of the Model 44 scale high-grade Verde Buster from the Stargazer OVA series. So for colors, as its name would indicate, we get quite a bit of green, two shades in fact, and that is also the way you're going to be able to tell apart which are the original parts from the original Buster, of which it is a remold, and which are the newer parts. So the original parts, they have a much darker green, kind of foresty green, and the new parts have a lighter mossy green. So we have them here on the shoulders, where you can easily tell the difference between the two greens. We have some parts here on the guns. The guns here, his kneecaps as well. Then, other than the green, we also get a very nice lightish gray, which also seems to have a little bit of green in it, and that was the sandy brown color on the original Buster. So it's overall a much darker machine than the original Buster right there. And to wrap things up, we also get a lot of orange little accents here and there. Here on the guns, on the kneecaps, chest, missile launchers right there. And unlike the green, there isn't a difference between the orange of the new and the older parts. And then, really finally, we also get gray for all the joints, the accessories. And unlike the Gundam Seed models, these did not get remastered versions, so you only get one version with regular gray, unlike the very nice gunmetal gray of the remasters. Then for stickers, we fortunately don't get too many of them, especially nice for a remold. As always, we get the usual eye stickers, which are very much obscured by the mask. Then we get two orange ones for his cheeks right there. We get some more orange ones right here on the gun. And what surprised me the most was that these little orange parts are actually parts and not stickers. For a remold, that's actually pretty damn impressive. Then for some more stickers, we also get very nice, shiny, metallic green ones. We get one right there. Then we get two for his crotch. And then you might also be able to tell that I did some cutting on my piece of paper, well, on my sticker sheet, and that is because, well, you don't technically get a sticker for the back camera, but there is plenty of green left over so that you can make your own. So for a remold, the Buster Gundam, with the help of some stickers, does a very good job at being color accurate, especially since it's a remold from a Gundam Seed high grade in 1/144 scale. Moving on to articulation, starting off with one thing I didn't really expect, the face mask. It actually goes a little bit up and down. Doesn't really make a whole lot of difference, but it's still cool to have. Then head is of course on a ball joint, so it will turn around, wiggle around, and do everything a ball joint does. And thanks to the new design of the V-fin, the giant bulky shoulders don't get in the way of the head articulation whatsoever. What they do get in the way of is their own articulation. Because yeah, they rotate around a little bit. But other than that, there's actually a whole lot going on with these new shoulders. First of all, just with the old Buster, we have the opening missile pods. Then we have the old Buster's weapons, which are now on here on ball joints nonetheless. Go up and down a bit, will rotate around, wiggle around. And once again, a very nice range of movement. Be careful, however, it's plastic rubbing against plastic, so don't go too crazy with those things, as fun as they are. Then on the back, we have a thruster, which is also movable, up and down a bit. We have these flaps that open and close, once again, to work in tandem with those thrusters. So as I said, there is a whole lot going on for just some shoulders. And then we'll go up, rotate around on a pretty stiff joint, and that is something the original Buster also had. Then bend at the elbow at one joint for about 90 degrees. Hands are on ball joints, will wiggle around, turn around, and do everything a ball joint does. Then the waist, not really that much movement, but slightly more than the regular Buster, because of course now these things are just stored there instead of on the backpack. Then the front skirts are molded together but can be separated, allowing the legs to go really far out very nicely. Backwards, not quite as much, go out really far as well, and probably the best outward mobility of any of the Gundam Seed models of its time, without a doubt. Then also rotate around, once again, one of the only, if not the only Gundam Seed models of the time that could do that. And one really cool thing is that this isn't just any kind of remold. They actually improved the hip movement, giving it that forwards and backwards swivel joint. And that's not all with that swivel joint. Once you remove the peg, it will reveal a hole for an action base. So really, it's an upgraded remold, not something you see every day. The knees are double jointed, but for being double jointed, that's about as much as we're getting. Then the feet go forwards a bit, backwards nicely, side to side on that ball joint, and we'll also rotate around. Or then the ball joint on top, we also have a hinge, which gives us that really nice backwards movement. And then of course, the foot guard also goes up and down a bit. So overall, the articulation on this thing is pretty damn good. Yeah, for today's standards, it's pretty nah, or maybe even on the bad side. But for the time, this was some really good articulation. Especially, once again, because it's a remold of a Gundam Seed high grade. On to accessories, and you're probably expecting to be putting this thing in a huge amount of poses thanks to its pretty damn good articulation. But unfortunately, this is where remold syndrome does kick in a little bit. Mainly on the support arms here for the guns, which they are pretty hardwired to. And the reason for that is these support arms are of course made for the original Busters' weapons, which are meant to be put in approximately 3 poses. So yeah, they did try to remedy that by putting a track on here, which does work pretty good in giving it more, movability, but it is still hindered a bit. So for example, you can move it around nicely, but once you start pointing it up and down, it does get in the way. Also, one more unfortunate thing is you can put it in like its quote-unquote full burst mode. It definitely looks cool like this, but for anyone who's seen the anime knows that these things should also be pointing in the same direction as the combined beam guns for ultimate destruction. And of course, I almost forgot to open up the missile pods. There we go. Then for the accessories that aren't on the machine itself, the action base. Also known as the action base you get with most of the Gundam Seed Destiny and most of the Astray kits. And really this is a very nice action base. Sure, it's not articulated as the action bases you buy, but as something you get with the kit, it offers you a lot of freedom. So you have one standing upright pose, and then here is another one you can also put on there to have a more moving forward pose. Or if you want to, like this, you can have 2 of them, and you can have one moving forward and one standing up, which for example is a really good thing to do with having the Verde Buster in back, and then on the front have either the Strike Noir or the Blue Duel. Then finally, we also get all of the pieces we need to make the original Buster Gundam, including the original hip joint, which you're of course not gonna have to use, because even on the original Buster, you can just as well use the new hip joint. So this is definitely one of the only machines out there that's a remold with which you can actually make an improved version of the original machine. And one thing that I definitely liked about this set is that because of that, you can also give it the original Buster's head. As always, the inevitable question is, do you want to buy this? It's got bayonets. And how many Gundams do you know of that have physical bayonets? Not a lot. Oh, you still need more? Well, how about for 1,600 yen, you're getting a very awesome, badass looking, bulky machine with a lot of stuff to play around with, including an action base. On top of that, it's a remold that is an upgraded version of the original, which is not something you see ever. And I just want to stress that because Bandai didn't have to give us new hips. The old hips were plenty good enough in the original Buster, but with the new hips we get a little bit improved articulation and action-based compatibility with the peg. So that is really sweet, and I really wish they'd do that more often. And also, it's a remold that isn't a P Bandai. Yahoo! So yeah, other than that, it's just a really good money value that you're getting out of this thing. A lot of bang for your buck, and once again, you can make two models out of this, the Verde Buster or a slightly different colored original Buster Gundam. So yeah, now you might be wondering to yourself, should I get the original Buster Gundam or the Verde Buster Gundam? And well, it's a difficult question to answer because, well, the original Buster for 1,000 yen is pretty much unbeatable when it comes to 1,000 yen models. Then the Verde Buster at 1,600 yen, yeah, you do get a lot of stuff, but at 1,600 yen, there are also a lot of other machines that, were also pretty damn amazing, and some maybe even a little bit cheaper. So in that aspect, the original Buster still has its amazing value. But one thing I definitely have to stress here is that the Verde Buster is, well, difficult to, precise to say this, but the Verde Buster really has the Buster feel, but it's still very different and plenty different enough to also get the Verde Buster even if you already have the Buster Gundam. For size comparisons, first of all, here is next to the other two of the trio. And I have to say, out of all three of them, the Verde Buster is definitely my favorite. Sure, the Strike Noir is technically superior to the Verde Buster, but it does have some issues playing it, making it not so reliable as the Verde Buster is. Then here it is next to the high-grade Cosmic Era Ailstrike Gundam, still one of the best Gundam Seed models in 1/44 scale, and the M1 Astray. Because the Verde Buster and the Astray get along just as well as the Blue Duel and the Baku. Oh wait. And then finally, here it is next to the standard size Gym Custom and the always bulky Zaku 3. And that's all for this review, and see you guys next time.